Welcome back to the Craig and Kris Show. I'm Kris, and I'm here with my buddy Craig.
Guys, want a quick mention real quick that we have our new email up and running. You can email us any questions, views on the show, anything you'd like us to talk about. That is craigandkris@live.com. That's Craig, C-R-A-I-G, and Kris, K-R-I-S. It's not your normal Kris. Spelled with a K. And you are not. You are not a normal Kris, and you don't deserve to have it spelled like that. That is K-R-I-S. So craigandkris@live.com. We'll try and get anything you talk about on the show, or at least give you an email back.
All right. Last segment, we talked about the NFL draft. We talked about some of the big picks and some of the reaches, maybe. But now we'd like to focus our attention a little bit on a certain pick by the Lions in the 7th round. Caleb Campbell. For those of you that don't know the story, he was a safety out of Army who was about 24 years old, and he's actually foregoing his duty to spend time in possibly Iraq or Afghanistan to play safety for the Lions. Now, there's a lot of mixed reaction about this. A lot of people think it's okay. A lot of people don't. Craig, I know you've got a lot of emotion backed up into this one. How do you feel about this?
I do have a lot of emotion. And just so you know, the Army has a rule set that if a player is drafted by the NFL for at least 2 years, what he does is he is a recruiter for the Army for those 2 years, and that allows him to forego his time overseas.
Right.
Now, this isn't anything compared at all to going overseas for 4 years. However, what kind of publicity, how many people does it draw to the Army with this? The Army's not doing this because it's bad for them. Now, there's a lot of negative things being said about this, but the Army does not do this because it's bad for the Army. They're smarter than that. They're not going to do that. How many professional football players are recruiters for the Army? One. And his name's Caleb Campbell.
Exactly. Now,
that is more than all the officers that they have overseas.
Absolutely. I understand what you're saying with this, but a lot of people would say, and I can understand the viewpoint, is that people that are going to be... The Army is not... Football does not come first at West Point. And at West Point, what comes first is service to the country. And it should be that way, and we're all thankful for the jobs that they do for us.
Absolutely, very thankful.
And sometimes we don't get to say enough about how much we actually appreciate them. And
the Navy and Air Force, too.
Absolutely, not just the Army and the Marines. And so but a lot of people would say that they don't want that kind of publicity brought about football. I mean, what's their football team's record in the last 5 years?
Actually, I did hear this today. I believe it's 20-46-ish. And Navy is now 43-26 or something like that over the last 7 years.
Okay,
and that's what the Army is over the last 7 years. And I think they're getting a little sick of losing. I mean, the Army-Navy game, that's a big rivalry. That's big. And maybe they are trying to put a little more of the spotlight on football.
But is that right?
You know, the way I look at it, I read something. Bill Simonson, The Huge. I know most of you are probably familiar if you're from this area with The Huge show. It's also live on Sunday nights. A little bigger than our show. But he said Lions pick turns his back on duty to country. You know, I don't buy that. And of course he's going to talk about Pat Kilman, who died for his country.
Right.
Left football, died for his country. Great story.
Absolutely.
Amazing man. That is just awesome. Now, you know, they have people calling in that were at West Point with Caleb Campbell that are all for this. They love it. They're 100% in support of it. People that have had to go overseas and serve this time, and he's now getting out of it at this time that he doesn't have to spend, and they're still in support of it because they know it's good for the country in general, because it's going to bring more people. It's going to bring more officers in. Now, granted, it can be tough because he's getting out of his duty, but I still don't believe it's wrong. He's a good guy.
Now,
he can serve afterward. He even talked about it.
So here's my question then, is that back in like Vietnam or in the Korean Wars, we had the draft dodgers that would flee to Canada when they did not want to become a part in serving the military.
Right.
Is this going to become now, if they're making this exception for football or for a professional athlete, why can't they make an exception like this for teachers or businessmen? And what standard are we setting football players above the rest of our society by having this standard out there?
Right.
And that's what I would say. I would say to this is that you've got a bunch of kids are now looking at this and saying, well, if I want to go to West Point, they'll pay for my college tuition if I don't make it into the NFL. If I do, then I don't have to go serve in Iraq, and I don't know if I want those kind of people defending my nation. The people that I see, the people that are more focused on their personal careers than the good of our country, and so it's a tough thing to talk about. It's I almost want to say it's one thing that's just basically your opinion, however you feel about it, and
there's not going to be anybody that's going to be right or wrong in this situation. It's tough, and it's a tough situation. But let's talk about the good news. Lions got a guy that's going to go 110%, words out of his mouth all the time. He's going for a coach that's a Vietnam vet. He actually played with Matt Millen's son at Army.
You think that had anything to do with the pick?
Oh, I'm sure it didn't. Absolutely not. Of course it did. It really did. And the fact that he's just a good guy. I mean, his son was vouching for him. So we got a good guy coming in. He's versatile. Watching the Tigers game here, he could play a little linebacker. He could play a little safety. Little Brandon Inge of the Detroit Lions. See what we got going on.
I can see that.
I can see him playing special teams too.
Now, if he wants, special teams, I think will be where he'll have the biggest impact initially. I think I'd like to see him put on a few pounds and maybe play a little bit of outside linebacker.
Yeah, put on 15 to 20. Yeah.
More than safety. I think he lacks the ideal speed to be a safety in the NFL.
I can agree with that.
So
he can hit.
Yes, he can, and he looks. Just watching film of him, this guy looks like he's one of those guys that's just going to come out and bring it to the field every single day. And he plays a lot of energy and a lot of emotion. You know that he's going to, being a guy from West Point, he's got friends that he knows that are over there, so he's got maybe have a little bit extra motivation to play hard than these guys that are making $50 to $30 million contracts. So.
Yes, exactly. So, time for another break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about Roger Clemens. The whole issue he's got going on now. Wow. You're going to want to stay tuned for this one. Not pretty. Also, we'll be talking about the NBA playoffs, and of course, Kris is going to want to talk about little hockey playoffs.
The Red Wings.
Go Red Wings. We'll see you in a little bit.